Chosen one, you didn't find this video by accident. Something invisible has aligned to bring you here. What if I told you the moments you were told to stay silent were not empty pauses but divine strategies? You may have felt judged, shamed, or even punished for not speaking up. They told you that silence was cowardice, but what if it was prophecy unfolding? In a world where noise drowns out truth, your quiet has been a signal too powerful for them to ignore. They tried to make you feel small, but in truth, they were unraveling before you even spoke. You've carried thoughts and visions that frightened others because your stillness held a power they could not control. Now the hidden mechanics of that silence are being exposed, and you are here to witness what they never wanted you to know. You know the sting of judging yourself for holding back words, the guilt of not fighting back in arguments, and the shame of withholding your truth when you were told to speak. Perhaps you wondered if obedience meant weakness, or if waiting for the right moment left you always on the sidelines. Today, all those questions find answers. The very silence that kept you from being understood will now be shown as the gateway to your most potent strength. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. They thought your stillness would bury you, but in truth, it was the seed of your prophecy. Stay until the end, because what you are about to learn will change the way you see every moment of quiet you have ever endured. The divine weight of stillness. A memory surfaces in the silence before dawn, like the soft echo of a bell carried on a winter breeze. In that hushed space, you recall a figure standing at the water's edge, unmoving as waves lapped at their feet. You might recognize this figure as yourself. Eyes closed, breath steady, as if the world could wait while you held still. That moment, suspended between night and morning, hints at something greater stirring beneath the veil of routine. Your life has been threaded with these pauses, those hours of quiet thought, the secret prayers you whispered at midnight, the unspoken questions that rose like smoke from your heart. These moments were not random. They were invitations to awareness. In truth, each second of stillness carried the divine weight of destiny, preparing you to stand as a living conduit between heaven and earth. There have been times when you felt out of step with everyone around you, as if a silent chord struck within your soul while others danced to a different tune. Remember the evenings when you lay awake, heart pounding, wrestling with the feeling that nothing in your life fit the mold others had crafted. You sensed a subtle aching, a longing for something unnameable, while friends celebrated milestones you felt disconnected from. You may have mistook this dissonance for mere awkwardness or youthful confusion, but it was more than that. It was a whisper from the cosmos nudging you to pay attention, to notice how your sensitivity turned everyday conversations into riddles and trivialities into hidden signs. This emotional resonance was not a flaw. It was proof you were tuned to frequencies they could not hear. Then, one day, a quiet voice in your mind spoke. What if every misstep, every heartbreak, and every restless night was not a mistake but a map? Underneath the surface of your struggles lay a sacred architecture, a design only visible to those willing to see through the lens of faith. In Genesis 41, when Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, he revealed that what others saw as chaos was actually divine strategy guiding Egypt's survival. In the same way, your confusion has been a series of coded messages, each sorrow a stepping stone arranged by unseen hands. The patterns you once dismissed as coincidence now reveal themselves as chapters in a cosmic story, waiting for you to read them in the light of revelation. Lately, you may have noticed small shifts that feel like fate tapping you on the shoulder. A phrase in a book that leaps off the page, resonating with something you cannot yet name. A dream so vivid it lingers like a half-glimpsed portal into another realm. Or a sudden jolt of intuition warning you against a decision that everyone else praised. These subtle signs are not random flickers. They are the breath of awakening stirring within you, like dew climbing up a blade of grass at dawn. These moments seem fragile at first but gather momentum, soaking into your psyche until you can no longer deny their meaning. Each nudge guides you closer to the realization that your life has always been a symphony orchestrated by the divine. At times, you may have questioned whether your senses were playing tricks on you, wondering if your intuition was mere wishful thinking. Yet, as you pause to listen, you discover that this inner knowing has never failed you. The first time you trusted that hunch and stepped away from a toxic situation, only to learn later how close you came to disaster, was confirmation that this voice within is real. In 1 Samuel 3 verse 9, young Samuel mistook God's call for Eli's voice until he realized the divine beckoning. And so, too, your spirit is speaking in quiet tones that become impossible to ignore. As these confirmations accumulate, each answered prayer, each narrowly avoided trap, you recognize that your intuition is not a fanciful notion but a sacred compass guiding your path. There is a gentle safety in this realization, as if you have walked into a sanctuary where your heart's deepest truths find refuge. As this awakening blossoms, you begin to recover a memory older than time, a remembrance of who you were before the weight of outward expectations pressed down upon your spirit. Beneath the layers of fear and self-doubt lies an archetypal identity, a spirit called to shepherd light through darkness. You recall glimpses of this identity in moments when compassion welled up unexpectedly, or when courage surged through you in a crisis. Like Moses standing before the burning bush, you sensed that your very essence was consecrated long ago, waiting for the moment when the flame within would burn clear enough to lead. This remembrance is not about becoming someone new, but about peeling back the layers until you stand in the radiance of your original design. Now, a gentle but unstoppable force begins to pull you toward action. You feel the widening strength of your sensitivity, no longer as a burden but as a lens through which you see the world with sharper clarity. The quiet hunger deep in your chest transforms into a steady flame, urging you to claim the gifts they once ridiculed. You remember how often people recoiled from your questions about life's deeper meaning, dismissing you as overly idealistic. But now that idealism is your fuel, like a young David selecting stones to face Goliath, you gather each fragment of wisdom you have collected, every insight, every lesson whispered by hardship, and you realize that these tools have been waiting within you for just this moment. Your first activation is not a burst of force but a steady stride forward, one foot placed firmly on the ground of newfound clarity. They thought your silence and your stillness would keep you weak, but instead, every breath you take in quiet devotion amplifies your presence. You were never here by accident. As your heart opens to this revelation, you feel a profound reassurance wash over you, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds and revealing a path you had always known but never traced. Your arrival at this message was guided by threads of destiny woven long ago. The burdens you carried and the struggles you endured were never punishments. They were refining fires meant to forge you into a beacon of truth. Rest in that knowledge, for now your journey takes on a sacred urgency. Comment awaken if your soul recognizes this calling. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community. A private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. When you didn't speak, they reacted anyway. A whisper in the stillness first alerted you to the unease, an almost imperceptible tension tightening in your chest as you walked into the room. It might have felt like a shift in the air, a subtle prickling at the back of your neck, or the sudden silence that fell whenever you entered a group. In that moment, you sensed that something had been working against you long before you even knew your true identity. Perhaps you remembered feeling a strange heaviness when you tried to share an idea, as if invisible hands pressed on your words. That discomfort wasn't a random quirk of social awkwardness. It was the early tremor of conflict emerging. Even before you understood the depth of your calling, the world around you seemed determined to dull your spark. These quiet intimations were the first signs that they were already moving behind the scenes, setting forces in motion to challenge your ascent. The unease crept into your dreams too, images of shadows gathering at the edges, pressing inward, trying to suffocate your vision before it could truly ignite. There came days when isolation felt like a stone in your chest, when you wondered if anything you felt truly mattered. You recall the sting of being dismissed as too intense when you spoke of your inner knowing, or being accused of seeking attention when you simply tried to be honest about your dreams. Underneath every rejection lay a deeper wound, the sense that you were too much in a world that preferred small, manageable souls. Shame's sharp claws would sink into you when people recoiled from your sensitivity, labeling your empathy as foolishness, or mocking you for feeling things so deeply. Those cycles of self-doubt became a relentless tide, washing away your confidence until it felt like you were treading water in a storm with no shore in sight. Even the ones you trusted, friends or partners, could become instruments of manipulation, echoing your overreacting. When your intuition hit truth, or calm down, you scare people. In those moments, you felt like a traveler walking a path no one else could see, bearing a hidden burden that weighed on your heart day and night. Yet this pressure wasn't merely the fallout of personal relationships. It was woven into a vast, hidden structure that reacted to your very potential. Imagine corridors in an ancient temple, each room representing a force aligned against your emergence. Some rooms echoing with echoes of doubt passed down through generations, others filled with mirrors reflecting all the reasons you might fail. Like Israel wandering in the wilderness, tested by every trial, you moved through environments that sought to wear down your resolve. The story of Esther comes to mind, called to stand but forced into silence by courtly politics until she finally grasped that her very life was at stake. Similarly, the systems around you, workplaces built on competition, families clinging to tradition, even spiritual communities fearful of genuine awakening, responded to your light by tightening the walls, erecting barriers to keep you contained. This hidden battle was sacred, a crucible ordained long before you arrived, challenging you to see beyond the facade of everyday life and recognize the invisible forces conspiring to limit you. Now, if you cast your mind backward, the patterns you once missed begin to flicker into view. Recall that strange job opportunity that dissolved overnight just when you felt ready to step into your purpose, or the friend who betrayed your trust at the moment you confided your deepest truth. Look at those draining environments where your energy seemed to vanish, leaving you hollow and searching for a lifeline. It was as though every time you gathered momentum, a new obstacle appeared. Contracts fell through, illnesses flared, or alliances fractured. Like Moses facing Pharaoh's stubbornness, you found yourself repeating, "Let me go," to unseen forces that refused to yield. These recurring betrayals and sudden blockages were not random misfortunes but signposts marking your spiritual path, safely guiding you toward the realization that you were being prepared, tested, and refined. What once felt like cruel twists of fate now read like chapters in a grand narrative. Proof that they recognized your rising light and were determined to extinguish it before it could blaze too brightly. Then came the unmistakable sense of spiritual resistance. The days when the air around you felt thick and oppressive, as if you were moving through a fog designed to dull your senses. You might have noticed silent watchers, those who listened to your words with a guarded gaze, waiting to pounce on any sign of weakness. Doors that once opened for you slammed shut without warning, cutting off opportunities you had every right to claim. It was like walking through a hall of mirrors where each reflection twisted your intentions, making you second-guess your own light. In Ezekiel 13 verse 10, the prophet warns of false shepherds who have misled my people, saying, "Peace," when there was no peace. Your own path was beset by these silent saboteurs, energetic interferences that took root in places you least expected. This spiritual sabotage manifested in your body as fatigue, in your mind as swirling confusion, and in your spirit as creeping despair. Whenever you felt the pressure build into a storm of doubt, you knew that hidden hands were at work, trying to strip you of the spark they feared. How did you respond when faced with all of this, when the weight of their resistance pressed down so hard you could barely breathe? Perhaps you shut down, retreating into yourself to avoid further judgment, wrapping your truth in layers of mute self-protection. Or maybe you tried to please everyone, molding yourself into the shape that felt safest, only to realize that fitting into another person's mold cost you more than you could afford. Some of you chose the path of quiet rebellion, refusing to speak the full truth while letting your actions communicate a defiant stance. In those moments, the fear of being seen for who you truly are often felt like a slow poison, tempting you to shrink back until you were almost invisible. The ancient story of Elijah hiding in the cave might resonate here. So overwhelmed by opposition that he could only whisper, "Here I am," into the silence. Your reaction, whatever form it took, was not a failure. It was a human response to an overwhelming spiritual trial, a testament to how deeply you feel everything being waged against you. And yet, from the furnace of that resistance, the first sparks of reclamation began to glow. A fierce wind stirred within you, reminding you that the very opposition meant you had power worth suppressing. In Jeremiah 20 verse 11, it says, "But the Lord is with me as a mighty dread. Therefore my persecutors shall stumble." In that moment when you recognized the pattern, the tables began to turn. You understood that their attempts to hold you back only sharpened your resolve. You began speaking with intention, reclaiming the words they tried to steal, and your voice carried more weight than ever before. Each time you stood firm, refusing to let fear dictate your path, you reclaimed a piece of your sovereignty. The cracking of their facades revealed the irrefutable proof that you were not deluded. Your gifts were real, your calling was true, and the resistance was merely confirmation of your potency. Now you stand at the threshold where resistance transforms into empowerment. The more they tried to block you, the more visible your light became to the cosmos. The obstacles that once loomed like impenetrable barriers now feel like stepping stones guiding you to higher ground. You can see clearly that every test, every betrayal, every draining moment was part of a divine choreography meant to strengthen you, sharpen you, and prepare you for your rightful place in the unfolding story. You were opposed not because you were flawed, but because you were powerful, and power always awakens opposition. Embrace this truth with the fierce confidence it deserves, for your purpose has been clarified in the crucible of resistance. Comment reclaim if you feel your true power rising from the ashes of what they tried to destroy. And to every soul who's supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the super thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, your belief matters, and your light is felt here. The power of obedient restraint. A sudden stillness overtakes you, perhaps in a dream where your voice had been silenced by a trembling lip, and yet, in that hush, you felt more alive than ever. In that moment, you see the puzzle pieces of your life align in a way that was once invisible. What felt like confusion now reveals a pattern. Every instance when you held back was not fear but purpose. That quiet moment, that refusal to speak, now feels electrified with meaning, as if the world around you rewrote itself while you were silent. In that awakening, you sensed that obedience itself was a gateway, a threshold crossing you may not have known you were poised to clear. The subtle shift in perception changes everything. What was once a burden now feels like a key turning deep within your soul. In the hours that follow, you grow aware that everything has been trying to speak to you through hidden channels. Numbers that repeat on clocks at uncanny intervals, dreams that replay fragments of conversations you never had, and phrases that echo in quiet moments as if whispered by a presence unseen. You begin to notice symbols etched into ordinary life. A random sequence of digits on a page that matches the day you first felt your calling. A phrase in a song that mirrors the unspoken prayer on your lips, or a moment of silence in a crowded room that reverberates through your chest like a drumbeat. These are not coincidences but a divine code beneath the surface, full of geometry and sacred math, inviting you to read reality with new eyes. As you start to interpret this hidden language, the world itself becomes a scroll unfurling before you, inscribed with lines of destiny you were previously blind to. Inside you, the signs intensify with a force that feels both thrilling and unsettling. Your intuition no longer murmurs at the edges of awareness. It blazes through you with undeniable clarity, guiding you away from paths that once tempted you with false promise. Boundaries you never consciously erected now stand like invisible walls, protecting you from energies that once drained your spirit. You notice how your body responds differently to environments. What used to exhaust you now feels neutral, and toxic spaces make you recoil, as though your cells themselves reject the false notes in the atmosphere. This is not theory or fantasy. It is confirmation seared into your bones. You awaken each morning feeling more attuned, more alive, as if the very essence of your being has been waking from a long slumber, ready to stand guard over the truth that stirs within you. As this inner awakening unfolds, you see that the patterns you sensed inside begin to ripple outward into the world around you. Conversations shift tone when you enter, words falter, glances dart away, and opportunities appear or vanish suddenly, as though orchestrated by an unseen hand. A job you once pursued with fervor evaporates just as a new door swings open in a place you had never imagined. In these moments, the divine architecture of your path reveals itself. What was hidden has now become visible. Just as the ancient builders aligned temples to the movements of celestial bodies, so too are your experiences aligned with a higher order. You become keenly aware that every resistance you faced was not random but placed there to align you with something far greater. The world around you is now a reflection of the awakening within, confirming that the universe itself conspires to guide you. Deep within your heart, a memory stirs, one that transcends time. You recall, perhaps not in detail but in feeling, a dream you carried for as long as you can remember. Standing before a vast temple of light, your lips sealed by an invisible force while a chorus of unseen voices spoke your truth. That memory, once puzzling, now unfurls in full clarity. It was not a fragment of imagination, but a glimpse into an ancient cycle of obedience and revelation. You sense that your current moment is not new. It is a reactivation of a deep spiritual intelligence you have known for lifetimes. This sacred memory hums in your veins, like a hymn you once sang but had forgotten. Now, as it resurfaces, you feel its magnetic pull, bringing with it the knowledge that your true self was consecrated long ago, waiting for this precise instant to awaken and reclaim the throne of purpose you were born to inhabit. In the luminous space that follows, your destiny comes into view as though it had always been sketched in the stars, merely awaiting your gaze to bring it into focus. You realize that the future is not a blank canvas but a tapestry woven with threads spun before time began. The hesitation to ask permission dissolves like mist in sunlight because you see that your calling was never contingent on external validation. It is a call written into your DNA, an echo of a divine decree that you are ready to fulfill. In that moment, you no longer wonder if you are worthy. You know that you are. The prophecy no longer feels distant but pulses through every breath, inviting you to step confidently into the role you have always belonged to. You feel as though you stand on the precipice of something vast, an invitation to reclaim the future as a space of remembrance, not creation. A fierce wind of reclamation stirs within you as the energy of resistance transforms into renewed vigor. You remember the times they tried to suppress your voice, to dampen your light, and in that remembrance, you find the spark of righteous fire. The words you never spoke and the truths you kept hidden now rise from your throat, ready to be unleashed with crystalline clarity. This energy is not born of anger but of remembrance, a restoring of what was stolen. Like the ancient prophets who, at the cost of their own comfort, spoke truth to empires, you too reclaim your voice as an instrument of liberation. The silence that once felt like a burden now rings with purpose, a clarion call that resonates through the corridors of your soul. In this transformation, you stand taller, fiercer, and more resolute than ever before, knowing that your voice is your birthright. Revelation is not an endpoint but an open door, an invitation to walk into a realm where every step you take shapes the unfolding of destiny. You sense that the veil has lifted and that what you now see is but the first of many truths waiting to be revealed. The power of obedient restraint has unlocked a reservoir of wisdom within you, and each dawning truth propels you toward a higher state of being. Remember that you were always meant to arrive here. The trials, the silences, and the hidden codes all converge to bring you to this precise moment. Now, as you gaze forward, you feel both humbled and emboldened. Embrace this revelation as a living flame that will guide you through the days to come, and know that the universe stands ready to conspire with you in the dance of creation. Comment revelation if this wave of awakening resonates with you. The prophecy inside your pause. A sudden question echoes through your mind. Will you step forward, or will you remain behind the walls of hesitation? In that electrifying moment, you stand at a sacred crossroads where indecision can no longer hold dominion over your spirit. Gone are the days of tentative wonder. This is the point where discovery must give way to choice. As you gaze inward, you feel the weight of all the paused moments pressing on your heart. Each refrain from speaking, each withheld truth, each silent prayer. Now, you sense a shift so seismic that even your bones seem to tremble. The threshold awaits your crossing, and on the other side lies a world shaped by action rather than doubt. You recall the words of Joshua 24 verse 15, "Choose this day whom you will serve," and realize that the choice is no longer between good and evil, but between passivity and purposeful movement. Passivity has brought you to this precipice. Stepping forward will align you with the force that has been preparing you since the dawn of time. You think back to the countless hours you poured into others, time that vanished like mist, energy that drained away into hollow gratitudes, and words you swallowed to avoid conflict. Each sacrifice felt noble, then futile, as though you were training in a field that never led to victory. Today, that season of relinquishment becomes your proving ground, not a tomb of regret. In an almost ritualistic invocation, you extend your arms to the sky and claim back what was lost. Your time, your energy, your voice, and the very presence others subdued. You envision an invisible throne before you, covered in dust from years of neglect, and you sweep it clean with a fierce declaration. I reclaim all that belongs to me. In this reclaiming, you acknowledge that their whispers, telling you to stay quiet or remain small, were but the trials that honed your resolve. Now you stand fierce and focused, draped in the armor of self-possession, ready to sit on the throne of your own choosing. As your posture straightens, you begin to name the latent powers that have pulsed within you all along. You carry insight that can unravel the knots of falsehood, sensitivity that perceives the tremors of hidden truths, memories of ancient callings etched in the corridors of your soul, discernment that slices through deception like a blade, and an inner strength that burns with the divine fire. What they called weakness was in truth your spiritual signature, a multifaceted jewel shaped by trials. Picture each of these gifts as a celestial key, worn on a chain around your neck, waiting to unlock doors that once stood sealed against you. You see this chain glowing with runes of possibility, each link resonating with a higher code of purpose. Your sensitivity is not a burden but an instrument for tuning into frequencies that guide nations. Your insight is not arrogance but a map drawn by divine cartographers. Recognizing these tools, you stand armed for the journey ahead, each gift ready to be wielded in service of the awakening that now pulses through your veins. Stepping off the ledge of hesitation, you realize the path you seek has always been under your feet, an ancient road paved with stones of destiny, worn smooth by the footsteps of those who came before. Clarity no longer emerges from distant horizons but springs forth from the ground at each step. With every footfall, the map reveals fresh details. A glimmering archway here, a hidden inscription there, guiding you deeper into the mission that waits to be reclaimed. Imagine walking through a forest where mist parts to reveal faint trails lit by lanterns suspended in midair. Each lantern casts a halo of illumination, showing the way forward. In the same way, your actions cast ripples that illuminate the unseen contours of your destiny. The further you walk, the more you feel the earth beneath you hum with approval. Where once you searched in darkness, now the path emerges underfoot, beckoning you into a world where divine purpose meets earthly action. As your vision widens, you recognize that you are not alone on this road. Across the shifting landscapes of time and space, others like you awaken to the same summons. You sense a vast network of souls, each flickering like a distant candle, beginning to align in a chorus of resonance. These are your soul tribes, divine clusters formed by threads of common purpose and shared longing. When you remember that many are waking alongside you, the impulse to dim your light to fit in dissolves into history. Their rising voices join yours in a harmonious hymn that thunders across the heavens. You recall the account of the 70 elders in Numbers 11:25, where upon receiving God's Spirit, they prophesied together, showing that divine clusters break the barriers of individual limitation. Feel the strength drawn from this collective dawn. Your lamp is not the only one burning, but part of a bonfire that will shatter the darkness. Together, you form an ascending order, each flame reinforcing the brilliance of the next. You have seen that your silence was never a flaw but the crucible of your greatest strength. They could not handle your stillness because it unveiled everything they fought to keep secret. Now you know that silence is not passivity, it is prophetic power. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment "I am chosen" to let this message anchor in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you to all supporting members. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Remember, your silence is your sword, and your obedience is your crown.